What's going on, Fourth and Inches fantasy football fans? This will be our last announcement, letting you guys know that we are no longer Fourth and Inches fantasy football. We are Cheat Code Sports Fantasy Football Podcast and CheatCodeSports.com. The reason for the change was we wanted to expand into the four major sports over the next coming years, and fantasy football is not the only thing we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a whole lot of baseball and hockey and basketball, leading up in the next couple of years. This podcast is strictly football. So this is the Cheat Code Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. And for everybody who is a fan of ours, we really appreciate all the love we got, when we were Fourth and Inches. And we hope to get a whole lot more love now that we are Cheat Code Sports. The website now, official name, is www.cheatsports, cheatcodesports.com. So you're going to type that in, and we're going to have all the information that we had last year. All the information plus more. There's going to be a whole lot of information on there, as you guys know. Anybody who's gone to the website and checked it out, there is a bunch of information on there. The one thing that we did not have last year that we have now is it's free. 100% free. $0 to you. No money coming out of your pocket for all the information that we give. If you guys looked at the website last year, we give wide receiver cornerback matchups. We give our weekly ranks. We give just a ridiculous amount of information in one spot that you can read. We have articles. We have all kinds of information. You guys know the website. Go check that out. It is 100% free. So, real quick, we would like to tell you guys how much we appreciate you for listening in the podcast and being a part of the Cheat Code Sports family. We do this podcast to try to help you guys out in your fantasy football leagues, but also to try to expand on, our information and help you guys win. So, you guys are a big part of why we do this, and we really appreciate and thank all you guys that listen. We have a lot of love for you guys because you have a lot of love for us, and we appreciate you. So, going through this pandemic that we're going through, we would just like to thank you guys for listening in, and we pray for you and your families, and stay safe out there, guys. Enjoy the show.
What's going on, Cheat Code Sports Fantasy Football Podcast listeners? You got Dan, Kevin, Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, y'all?
What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Stevie P did a little fantasy or free agency podcast about, I would say, 3 weeks ago now. Wish I was on that podcast to kind of debate some of Steve's points and agree with some of the other ones. So maybe we'll get into that in the coming days or weeks going forward. We're going to try to get back more into the swing of things. But we're here to talk about the draft last night. We're going to go over some of our good and bad drafts in our opinions. These are going to be related primarily for fantasy. So a guy like CeeDee Lamb, for example, that is a great pickup for the Dallas Cowboys, but fantasy-wise for CeeDee Lamb, may not be the best for him. It helps Dak, so we'll get into different players that they like, that it works out for and stuff like that. So, wow. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? With the first pick, the Bengals took Joe Burrow, of course. I love it. I think if you watch Joe Burrow's tape, from his senior year, he was remarkable. He showed complete accuracy on just about every pass he threw. And to be honest with you, they're saying his issue is, that he doesn't have the best deep ball, but I remember he threw quite a few deep balls on that Clemson defense in the championship game, and really, to me, on those deep balls was money. So, I don't see a problem with his deep ball, and to me, you throw this guy in there, and the Bengals got weapons. Let's not forget that they got AJ Green coming back. You got John Ross, who showed a little promise last year. Tyler Boyd's been one of the best slot receivers. Joe Mixon, if he holds out, could be a problem, but if you get him in there, those weapons are good. You got Jonah Williams, the first round pick last year, that's going to be healthy this year. I'm actually surprised just looking at the second round now. They took T. Higgins. I was surprised they didn't go offensive tackle there or offensive lineman there to try to get him some help. But, at the end of the year, that offensive line I felt like stepped up. So, this could be good. This could be a good pick. And I do like Joe Burrow going, especially for fantasy. I think he helps everybody, especially compared to their quarterback play last year.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow, he has all the tools. He has everything you want in a starting quarterback. You know what I mean? He also has mobility that a lot of people don't talk about. You know what I mean? They immediately start talking about the 60, passing touchdowns, which is just outrageous. He had a season for all time. He had an all-time season, and he was great last year. But on this Cincinnati Bengals team, with Zach Taylor as a head coach, I really like the way they are going, and just adding like we just said, T. Higgins, and to me, I think that opens up the door for them to be willing to trade AJ Green. So don't be surprised if you see AJ Green going even maybe during this draft to get them to move up.
Maybe today.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But I really like the direction the Bengals are going. They're a team that seems to be ascending. So I could see Joe Burrow actually coming in year one and actually having a pretty solid season. I like the pick.
Yeah, it was the consensus. He was a consensus over number one overall. I mean, the season he had, like you said, Steve, is just it was one for. We may never see that again in college football. I mean, who knows what's going to happen down the road, but it was a historic statistical college football season, and he deserved to be the number one overall pick. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. He won the national championship. It was an awesome year for Joe Burrow.
All right, so the next pick that would be relevant, I guess, for fantasy would be offensive tackle Andrew Thomas. Yeah, so for me, I mean, I don't really think you can go wrong with offensive line at all this early. I mean, so most of these offensive lineman picks I'm actually going to agree with and think it's going to help your team, because to me, if you get anybody in the trenches, those are good picks, especially early in the draft. They don't always pan out, but right now on paper, they're all going to look good. So you get a guy like Andrew Thomas, this should help Saquon Barkley out. Saquon, you look at what he did those last couple games last year. I mean, he won people fantasy championships. He won me a fantasy championship. You get him some additional blocking up front, maybe another year with Andrew or with Daniel Jones. I think, it helps him out. It helps Daniel Jones out. Therefore it helps out all the receivers. So like I said, I don't think you can ever go wrong picking offensive line. And to me, on paper, that's always going to help pretty much all the skill positions.
Yeah. To me, like you said, I think he helps out in the run game more than he runs out in the pass game. I mean? The dude is just humongous, and he just moves guys with just his mass. If you watch him in a couple of games last year, he was just making huge holes. It was just, he is just a big, strong person. So, I really like the pick for Saquon. I really think that helps him. They already have Hernandez there, which is, really good. And I just think it's going to be, the Giants' offensive line is getting much better, and they've been bad for a long time. So, that pick, I think, just makes this team better.
Yeah, can't go wrong putting help with Saquon, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, so then with the fifth pick, the Dolphins took Tua. So for me, for fantasy related this year, I would specifically be drafting Tua for Dynasty. I'm not too high on him for redraft league, just because of the Dolphins. I do think they're still a year away. They do still got Devontae Parker out there, but Preston Williams is a guy who we really saw a little bit from in preseason and then didn't see too much after that. Their weapons are just very, very minuscule. Their line has been terrible. So, and who knows if Tua is even going to play this year, to be honest. They might literally redshirt him just, to keep him healthy with the team that they have around him. So, for me, Tua it's more of a dynasty pick. If you're going to draft him in fantasy, I would not be drafting him in redraft. I would, probably wait to see if he does play. And I personally, if I was the Dolphins, I probably would just redshirt him as much as I could. You can go with Rosen and Fitzpatrick for the year and let them get beat up out there and make your team better.
Fitzpatrick's still around, man. When's this guy just going to hang him up? He will give you 2 or 3 awesome games. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's not scared to wing it, but yeah, I do think they're going to see him at some point. Especially towards the end of the season, I do think they'll throw him in there. But he's not fantasy relevant this year. But he's definitely a quarterback that, being a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm really not happy about being a Miami Dolphin. He's going to give us trouble for years to come because he is just he's everything that you've heard about him, and a good person to boot. So I can't even hate the kid because I love his personality. I think he's a really good kid. I think he is going to be a fantasy problem for years to come. And as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be an issue. He's going to be a very good fantasy quarterback, for a long time. Especially if they start adding weapons, which it looks like they're going to start to do. They're building up that defense, and if they can get him some more offensive weapons, it looks like, they're probably going to be going. I wouldn't be surprised if they went, running back here, just to open that up. And it's a team that Dolphins in the next couple of years, I think, are going to be a team that people are drafting a lot of their players.
Yeah, I love Tua. I think out of all the quarterbacks, personally, I think he's got the highest ceiling. I think he's got MVP type potential. Like we said, everybody knows he's not going to be drafted in any 10, 12-man leagues for sure. And it's just he's a wait and see. But for Miami, they got themselves what I think is a surefire, franchise quarterback.
All right, so next we have Justin Herbert going to the Chargers. I was not a big fan of this pick, not just fantasy-wise, but football-wise. For me, fantasy-wise, they're saying Tyrod's going to be the starter. I'm assuming after, 8 games when they're, eliminated from playoff contention or, on the brink, they'll probably go with they'll probably bring Herbert in there. But I just – Herbert to me was not in a good offense in Oregon. It didn't really showcase his skill set. But, if you're going to be a top 6 pick, to me, you should show that you should be able to lift your team. And we did see that in the Rose Bowl. I do got to give it to him.
Though. That's what I was going to touch on. That's the only time we saw that he was that he looked like the player that we were waiting to see all year because he was bad. He was not consistent at all. And then that Rose Bowl game, he was so good in that Rose Bowl game that it really, literally, that single-handedly raised his draft stock.
Yeah, that in the Senior Bowl, he destroyed the competition at the Senior Bowl as well. But he just missed a lot of throws last year. Was not very accurate on hitting throws to the sidelines. That was one of his big knocks. It was like when he was going towards the sideline, he's supposed to have that strong arm, but the accuracy just wasn't there. So, to me, I text the guys when the pick was going on, when the Chargers were on the clock, I said they need to go with Isaiah Simmons or Derek Brown here and sign Cam Newton because you got Keenan Allen, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, all these guys. If you look at the free agent list from the Chargers team next year, it's literally all their good players. It's literally their top 10 players are all, free agents after this year, other than Austin Eckler. So,
not to mention Eckler catches like 80 balls a year.
Well, he's not this year. because Tyrod's not going to be dumping down like that because he's got his legs. So
yeah, that's gonna hurt him.
that's going to hurt Eckler with Tyrod. But
Yeah, Philip doesn't run it. Philip don't run at all. He's literally check down Charlie if he needs to be.
Yeah, for
hashtag Naeem Hines sleeper pick.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, for me, the one thing that he, like you guys said, you guys hit on that, he, sideline throws and things like that. But to me, he folds up like a folding chair. Whenever he gets pressure in his face, don't get me wrong, no quarterback is good with pressure in his face. They all seem to, have issues with that, obviously, because, nobody likes pressure in their face. But he really, you hit him once or twice in a game and he just becomes a completely different player. He loses all confidence. He does not look good. That Rose Bowl game, he just went off. But other than that, there was no game against good competition that I watched last year that I went, this kid is going to be great in the NFL. And he went in this, 6th overall pick. Can they translate, that big arm into, production on the field? Let's hope so, because they're going to need it. But, to me, it's the 6th pick. I would have rather had Jordan Love, if I'm being honest. If they were if they were hell bent set on picking a quarterback there, Love would have been my pick after Tua was gone.
Yeah, and you remember they came up later on and took Kenneth Murray, right, out of Oklahoma. And I love Kenneth Murray, but I would have much rather had Isaiah Simmons and Jordan Love rather than, Kenneth Murray and Justin Herbert, in my personal opinion. You can let Jordan Love sit. That's the thing with him. You're going to have to let him sit for a year and learn. You let him sit behind Tyrod Taylor, who's, Tyrod there with Josh Allen that first year?
Tyrod was there, yes. He was, he played the first couple. No, I'm lying. He was not there with Josh Allen.
He was there with. I know he was there with Baker. I know he was there with Baker, but he kind of, he's.
Yeah, him and
one of the things
Baker
I've
and Josh
hearing,
Allen's rookie years were the same year. So,
yeah, one of the things I've been hearing about with Tyrod is just that he's able to, mentor guys really well. So.
Yeah, well, Tyrod's a good person. Tyrod is a great person. There's nobody that you can talk to about him that talks bad about Tyrod. Tyrod is just a really good dude. But and you know what? To Tyrod's credit, I think he has a good chance of getting this team, to be good, because this team is already good. And he doesn't turn the ball over. That's what killed him last year, if you remember. Phillip Rivers turning the ball over and over and over and over again, towards the end of the season, is what took them out of the playoffs. Tyrod doesn't turn the ball over. If you look at Tyrod, I think the most turnovers he had in a season was like 9. So, he's never had double-digit turnovers in a season. He protects the ball, and they don't call him T-Mobile for nothing. The dude gets first downs. I think I think it's definitely going to be a sit and chill year for Herbert, and I think they know he's a project. I think they know that, and we're going to see how he develops.
All right, so the next fantasy pick, or offensive pick, we should say, would have been Jedrick Wills to the Browns. My feeling with the Browns this year is so split, because I love what they did with their offensive line, getting Jack Conklin and now having Jedrick Wills on the outside. I think Jedrick Wills was honestly the best offensive tackle in the draft, in my opinion. So you get those two guys on the outside, and now you have a good line to protect Baker. My problem is you're now giving Baker his 3rd coach in 3 years, and that's never a recipe for success. So I'm so split, because the talent on this team, everything, it's just like last year, and I love what they've done in free agency. But to me, this helps. This is going to definitely help the team. But it's still, to me, with the way they've been switching their coaches and just the revolving door they have there, it just, you're never going to see consistent success, and that's always going to be a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, Wills is definitely a player that, if you watch this tape, he protects the quarterback real well. He's not going to let up a whole lot of sacks. I think he lacks a little bit in the run department. He's a big dude, but his feet are made for pass blocking. So I definitely like Wills, but I definitely think that this was definitely a 100% Baker pick. This is let's keep our quarterback upright because last year he was just on the ground
Yep.
all the time.
All right. Next offensive player off the board was Mekhi Becton. Joe Douglas, the offensive line GM guru, decided to overlook, a wide receiver and go with Mekhi Becton. And if you look at Mekhi Becton, that dude is a mountain. He is huge.
365 and he ran
like 6'7", and he ran like a 4.8 or 5'1", something like that. Yeah,
5'1", 40. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
they said
I thought he had the most upside of all the linemen. I mean, Worf was my favorite offensive tackle, but Becton, I think he's got a world of room to grow as a tackle. I think he's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah, if he continues to grow, he's going to be an animal. He's going to be.
I hope you don't mean like I hope you don't mean like literally grow. Like
no, just improve. But he even with Joe Douglas, you look at what he's done this year. Like literally, just upgraded that line as much as he could. I mean, he got a lot of little pieces. Not like he didn't go out and get superstar names, but he just got solid players, George Fant, guys like that could fill in and hopefully, just kind of pick it up from, that terrible line that the Jets were last year. I think what they did in free agency and their pick last night really helps Le'Veon Bell. Hopefully helps Sam Darnold. I mean, they didn't get him a wide receiver. Maybe that's coming in the second round here. But
free agency.
If anybody, I would say probably helps Le'Veon the most.
Yeah, I love the player. The Jets need they need help all around. So they really could, doing anything on the offensive side of the football for them is a good call. I still like Sam Darnold so much when I watch him play, and I want to see what this kid has with a really, really good receiver because I think he's smart and has all the attributes. But this is also a very helpful pick for him too. So you got to put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yep.
All right. The next pick was I think that was this kind of like the first monkey wrench in the draft kind of.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Henry Ruggs going to the Raiders at 12 as the first receiver off the board to me. I mean, dude, last year you had Antonio Brown. He obviously went psycho and that went completely down the toilet. But to me, Jerry Jeudy models Antonio Brown's game almost to a T. Like his route running is so precise. It would have literally been exactly what you were going to do last year with Antonio Brown.
Yep.
And now you go get a deep ball, a speed receiver for a quarterback that does not throw a deep ball. I mean, this is just, this is one where the Raiders just are going to have to trust in John Gruden, and maybe it works, but I'm not a big fan of it.
Now, I feel like they took this pick, as like an homage to, to Al Davis, because honestly, this kid, don't get me wrong, he does run routes. He I think he is a well-rounded wide receiver with a lot of speed. So I'm not going to say he's John Ross, I would say, somebody posted on, I can't remember what site it was, but they were asking the question, is he closer to John Ross or is he closer to Tyreek Hill? And to me, he's not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is like amazing. I mean, Tyreek Hill's he's a generational, wide receiver. The dude at his size with his speed, making the moves that he does, being able to just score a touchdown at will. That's freakish. So I'm not going to compare him to him, but Ruggs is, to me, he has a lot of potential, but we're going to have to see that on a team that throws the deep ball. I mean, the Raiders, like Kev said, they don't throw, like, Derek Carr very rarely is willing to go deep. And, Ruggs' skill set, matched up with the other underneath guys, I think maybe he takes more chances this year, but, I would have much rather, to have seen, like, Judy go here or, one of the other guys, because I just think Ruggs, they always say you can't teach speed, which is why I think he went here, but not the pick that I would have made, and hopefully it pans out because I like John Gruden. I think he's a good coach, and I think he can.
I don't know if there's anybody
this guy going.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that studies football, quarterbacks, and offense. Like John Gruden does. So maybe he knows something or has a feeling of some kind to go and take a chance on this pick, but it's definitely not the pick that anybody saw coming, but we will see where it takes the new look Vegas Raiders.
Yep. All right. So the next pick in the draft, fantasy wise, was a great one. It was Tristan Wirfs to the Bucks. To me, Tristan Wirfs is a legit pass blocker. Perfect for what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to want to do. I'm assuming they're going to eventually get a running back in this draft, but right now I just think that this team is on an air raid, is looking to air raid. Honestly, when they traded up, when they first traded up, they had them staying at 14 and getting pick 13. Did you guys see that on the tracker?
No, I just heard that they switched with San Fran. So
yeah, they heard they traded with San Fran. They actually moved up one spot.
I was watching the draft on ABC. So ABC, it just said the Buccaneers have traded, and where the little tracker is on who's on the clock, it said Tampa Bay were the next two picks, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? They're going to get Wirfs and they're going to get a wide receiver here. Like, this is just impossible. We can't let Tom Brady have all this. Mm-hmm. But now eventually it changed and San Fran popped up there. But when they moved up, when I saw that, I was like, Jesus, are they going to move up and get one of these receivers and take Wirfs right after this and be ridiculous? But yeah, I love this pick for Brady. I mean, protect your 40-year-old quarterback, and they got a ton of weapons on that team that he's going to be able to air it out to with Gronk now and Howard and Brait and then Evans and Godwin at receiver. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Wirfs was my favorite tackle coming into this draft. I thought he was the, most. He was the word am I looking for? The most NFL ready tackle coming out of the draft. He runs blocks, he pass blocks. He's a big dude. I mean, to me, I like him a lot. I was surprised that he went as the fourth of the tackles. Out of there was four main tackles. Wirfs, Becton, Wills, and what was the other one? Thomas. He was the, to me, he was my number one of the big four. So for him to go to, at pick 13, I think, they got a steal at 13. But Tom Brady, once again, things align for Brady.
All right. Next offensive pick was Jerry Jeudy to the Broncos. Love this pick. Absolutely love this pick. When Steve did the free agency podcast and he was talking about Melvin Gordon to Denver and he was not a fan of it. I actually liked it. And I think this just helps this even more because if Drew Lock, and I was texting with these guys earlier, and this is my thing. I think Drew Lock is a great fantasy risk to take late in drafts because nobody's going to be even thinking about taking him. And this guy's got weapons like Sutton and Jeudy and Noah Fant. And then you got these running backs like Lindsey and Gordon, and even Royce Freeman can catch the ball out of the backfield. Like,
yeah, they all got hands.
Drew Lock has weapons, and if he is any bit of a football player, like I literally was telling him, I'm literally going back and watching Drew Lock tape from this season and from his college days because I want to see if this kid's the real deal because he showed like he came on, I think what he played like the last 4 games, maybe 5 games of the season. Yep. And he looked pretty good. You know, he didn't jump off the screen at you, but I don't think Patrick Mahomes jumped off the screen at you in that one game he started his rookie year. So to me, like, I'm not saying Drew Lock's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but if Drew Lock can play, he's definitely got the weapons to come out here and really put up some good numbers. So to me, like I said, I think Drew Lock could be a great fantasy quarterback to take late, especially if you want to pair him with another guy that's, you know, kind of in that 11 to 12 range.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to speak bad about Jerry Jeudy. I love Jerry Jeudy. To me, he was my number 1 wide receiver coming in this class. I like Jeudy a lot. So, you know, the Broncos, I wish he would have gone to, you know, another team, if I'm being honest, because I just don't know how the Broncos, you know, especially with, you know, like you said, Noah Fant being there and Cortland Sutton. You know, Sutton is definitely, you know, a beast. We saw it last year. To me, I think he's the unquestioned number 1. So I would have liked to see him go to a place where he could be a number 1 possibility. But you know, I do like the pick. It's a great pick. I like Jerry Jeudy a lot.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a good young combination for a while.
Yeah, that threesome with and Sutton and Jeudy, man, they are young, and like I said, if Locke is good, man.
They're all young. I mean, aside from, you know, Melvin Gordon, who's a few years in, that the whole entire offense is young and, you know, they can grow up together and definitely, you know, going to be fantasy relevant for a while.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we'll get to the next one, which is CeeDee Lamb going to Dallas.
This one broke my heart.
This really did, as Eagles, you know, me and Dan are both Eagles fans, and we were praying at that 16 spot that they jumped ahead, and
I just had a feeling that Dallas was going to do it just out of pure spite.
When I saw Jerry Jones's face, I was like, "Yep." But yeah, to me, for fantasy, this is very, very sketchy. You know, it doesn't do well for CeeDee Lamb necessarily because you already have a you know, prime wide receiver there in Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup was a good number 2 receiver. You know, you really didn't need that third receiver. I guess you did need the third receiver because if you know, Mike McCarthy literally just his whole playbook is 3 wide receiver sets, whole playbook. So with that being the case, you know, I think it's good for them to get that third receiver, but it doesn't do anything for CeeDee Lamb. He's literally going to be fighting with Michael Gallup for targets, and you know, if anything, this makes Dak Prescott. You know, Dak was already high at coming off last year.
Dak was a top 10. He could be a top 5.
Well, Dak was top 5 last year. Dak had 4,900
yards.
Yeah. Dak was a beast last year, and fantasy wise, and you know, this should just make him even better. I possibly could hurt Zeke Elliott. I mean, if they're planning on going in the other, and they're planning on, you know, going more towards a passing offense, like, you know, McCarthy never really did run the ball in Green Bay, so it ought to be interesting to see how that Dallas offense works because they literally might be scoring 40 a game and giving up 40 in the process because their defense is not going to be good.
Yeah. So real quick, we're going to hit on this because we are watching the NFL draft as we're going. The Colts just traded up for Zach Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor.
That scares me as a Marlon Mack keeper league owner right now. I'm not very happy about that one.
Yeah, that's head scratching, really. They're almost this, you know, like they're almost the same player. Like they have them playing the same way. So
I do think this is Marlon Mack's last year under contract though too. So
that could be it. But this is a little, and they traded up to get him, Jonathan Taylor. Interesting. But real quick before we get into my CeeDee Lamb breakdown, I do want to pay my condolences to the Dak Prescott family. As
Oh
most of
yeah.
you guys know, his brother died. Nothing's been released on what he died from or how he died, but still we want to pay our respects, and we're sorry to hear that about an NFL player. We don't like the Cowboys, but we don't wish death on anyone. These guys are human beings at the end of the day. So condolences to his family. For CeeDee Lamb, I hate this landing spot. This is one of the picks that just really, I'm going to be honest, it just pissed me off. I really liked CD. I really liked Judy and CD. They were my two favorite guys coming out of this draft. CD, I just love the way he plays. The dude fights through arm tackles. He goes up and gets the ball. He fights for everything. This dude is a fighter, and I love that in a wide receiver. Reminds me a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, and I think he's going to be good for a really long time. And I think Williams' contract up maybe next year, I think it is. But with all that being said, I just, unless he becomes like the slot guy in this offense, I just don't see how they're going to really use him all that much. This is one of those picks that really just irked my soul when I saw it.
All right, so we will move on to the next one. Austin Jackson from Miami. This one to me, like I said before, I don't think you can go wrong taking O-line in the draft, because it's all about development with O-line. To me, you got to have good coaching there to develop them. I do think Brian Flores is a good head coach. I don't know what his staff is going to be like, but I do think that Austin Jackson is, good pick. Like I said, offensive line in the draft is always a good pick, and I don't know how it helps anything for fantasy this year. Austin Jackson it does have to develop a lot. So I don't think it really does anything for any of their fantasy production this year, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Austin Jackson is a project. I don't see him making a huge impact this year. It is definitely a down the road pick, but from everybody that I'm listening to and everything I've read about the kid, he seems to be a good kid, and hopefully he helps them in the long run, because this is a team that needs playmakers, needs to just get better, period.
All right, so next pick for fantasy relation would be Jalen Reagor. Yep. So
I'm going to start with this one.
Yeah, go ahead, because you're going to be the positive one. Go ahead. We're going to be the positive.
So for me, Jalen Reagor was like, I had a really tough time, figuring out my top six, because I think there's a big six in this draft of wide receivers. But Jalen Reagor was like my 3 or 4. I really like this kid. I know a lot of people, not Eagles fans, are probably not happy with this pick, but I think if you watch his freshman and sophomore year, the kid was an absolute animal. Just a really, really good player. And then with bad quarterback play last year, people say, mediocre. No, it was bad quarterback play. The dude had... Okay, so of all the wide receivers that had passes thrown to them last year, 69. The highest was Jefferson at 69% catchable ball rate, right? Which is just insane. That number doesn't even make sense. That's a really, really high number, right? In TCU, his number was 30%. He had a 30% good ball rate, like a good pass thrown to him his way. That's insane. That is just doesn't make sense numbers. That means the dude is literally having to catch things off his shoelaces, way over his head. To me, it was just really bad quarterback play, and I'm not going to take his junior year and say that he's a bad player. I think this kid is a very good player. I think he is, if he had a good quarterback, if he had, even Justin Herbert throwing him the ball, he would have been a million times better than he was, last season. So, for me, I like this kid a lot. I think this is a great pick for the Eagles. And if I'm being honest, I think if the Eagles, even if, like, let's say Higgins was there for the Eagles, I think the Eagles still take Jalen Reagor.
All right. So, yes, I was not very happy. A lot of my anger came from not moving up to get CeeDee Lamb. I thought that was, with CeeDee Lamb dropping, I thought that was prime position to move up and get him, and they chose not to. Then Justin Jefferson's there. I really like Justin Jefferson. When I actually think about it and listen to, some experts today and people talking, if you look at what the Eagles did, it seemed like the Eagles went more for their team fit and their system, as opposed to Justin Jefferson's not really a good fit for what Philly does. Philly was looking for speed on the outside, guys that can get downfield because they have Jackson, but he's often injured. So they were looking at somebody who can get down the field and create a threat. And, you watch the guy's highlight tape, you put the ball in his hands, he's unbelievable. But the issue he has is lack of concentration and drops, which is pretty much Nelson Aguilar. And that is not what we are looking for. You start dropping balls in Philly, that is going to be terrible. So that just gives me pause. The guy in 39 games played had 300-yard games in the Big 12, which has nothing but terrible defense. Like, I understand his quarterback play was bad, but hopefully this guy turns out to be a player for my team's sake. But I was just looking. I was looking at other guys. I was looking at Jefferson. I wanted them to move up for Lamb, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah. Same boat for me with the Lamb. Yeah, once Dallas took down, when we talked about him briefly, it really did. Like, I knew Judy wasn't an option because we would have had to move up too far. But I thought when Lamb started dropping, it was becoming a realistic possibility. The butterflies were starting to settle in a little bit, and then once he went off the board, I kind of wanted to wait on wide receiver to round 2 and go after a linebacker because we got other needs. And the way that Philly's been right now with how bad the wide receiver play was last year. I mean, we talked to, if anyone listened to our cast or watched any Eagles, Carson Wentz was literally throwing to practice squad guys. I mean, his best receiver in the last 4 games was a running back in college. I mean, it was sad. So this was a move that front office knew they needed to make to appease the fan base. I mean, we just won a Super Bowl a couple years back. So, I mean, this city bleeds football anyway, but with the Super Bowl win, they know that they need to stay hot, stay relevant. So this was a pick that, they looked at all the wide receivers and they picked who they thought was going to be the best fit. I'm not going to fault them until I see if it's good or bad, and hopefully we'll be praising them.
Did you have something to add in there, Steve? Before Dan talked, you looked like you were going to add in a little something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I just think he is, him and T. Higgins were my, between the guys I couldn't figure out who I wanted 3 or 4, and I love that kid. I think he's going to be very good for the Eagles. So we'll see.
All right. Next pick was Justin Jefferson to the Vikings. I thought this was perfect for him. I literally thought it was perfect. He can come in and not really be relied upon to be a, heavy target machine. He's a guy that, we talked earlier, amongst us, and we were saying he doesn't really create a lot of separation. And I agree. Like, if you look at it, Burrow was putting a lot of those balls on the money and he was going up and getting them. But
that's at 60% stat that Steve just threw out there. I mean, that's how accurate Burrow was last year and how on point. Yeah. I mean, his numbers were hugely inflated by Burrow, but I mean, he's got a good quarter. He's not going into a system where he's got a young guy. He's got a reliable, all-star vet quarterback. So, it's there for the taking for him.
I wouldn't say all-star.
He has been a Pro Bowler twice.
Kirk Cousins and all-star is not. See, I hate that. I hate like one time does not make you an all-star. I mean, you had a good year.
He gets paid. All right, let me put it like this:
he gets paid like an all-star.
Gets paid like a superstar. The man and Sam Bradford's agents know how to get them guys paid.
Yeah,
in line.
But yeah, I think this was perfect because he doesn't. He's this. I mean, let me say this: I think it was perfect for football. I don't think his fantasy production is going to be outstanding this year. I think they're going to go heavy with Adam Thielen. I think they're going to run the hell out of the ball with Dalvin Cook. So, Justin Jefferson, I wouldn't be like rushing to draft him. But at the same time, for their team, I think this is a good pick.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson to me is. He doesn't really separate well. He doesn't really, he has great contested catchability. But, he was fast at the combine, but what you see on tape, he just doesn't look all that fast, doesn't look all that elusive. He doesn't break a whole lot of tackles. To me, I thought Joe Burrow really made his season huge. The dude scored 18 touchdowns, so you can't take anything away from him. But, his quarterback threw 60. So, I like Jefferson. I think he's going to be, a solid NFL player. But in the first round, I think that's a little bit of a stretch for what I saw on tape.
All right. So next man up was Cesar Ruiz from the Saints. Cesar Ruiz, I think, is a great offensive lineman, great center. However, the Saints just didn't have a ton of needs. I think the report today was that he's going to compete with Larry Wolford for, the starting guard position. But this is just the rich getting richer, in my opinion, because the Saints didn't have a ton to upgrade on their team. They could have went with Patrick Queen here to get an additional middle. They could have went with Jordan Love to get the heir apparent for Drew Brees. They decided to go with Brees and just put a ton of depth on their line. I like it. It doesn't really do too much for their team next year necessarily because they were already stacked at offensive line and already had a good line. But I do like the pick.
Yeah, I like it too. I like you said, I think that they are a stacked offense. I think that they have a really good team all around, but the one glaring hole for them, to me last year was their center play. I think they were lacking in the push in the center position. When Max Unger, retired from that team, that really hurt them. But I think this year, that pick, really solidifies, that middle of that offensive line, and it could make the difference.
All right, next man up was Brandon Ayuk. Wide receiver went to the 49ers. I loved this pick, mainly because this is kind of similar to what Jefferson. I'm high on Deebo Samuel, so I do think that Brandon Ayuk coming in, then he's not going to have to rely on him to be a monster first-round wide receiver that they're going to, expect a ton from. They run the ball a lot, so this was a great pick, and to me, I think the 49ers first round was just excellent. I loved Javon Kinlaw. I loved him. I thought he was a beast. And when they got him at 14 and then added Ayuk later on, to me, the 49ers hit home runs in this draft. And like I said with the Saints, it's just a rich getting richer.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
If you were going to take a player out of this draft that reminded me of Deebo Samuels, this would have been the pick. So I just think they have two dynamic offensive weapons now on the same team, and the 49ers are going to be a problem for years to come. That's really all I have to say about it.
Damn, so the Broncos go with KJ Hamler after taking Jerry Jeudy? Wow. So now they got their slot receiver to go with it. God damn, they got some weapons for Drew Lock. Give me some Drew Lock next year, baby.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I bet.
Move.
Cut you off.
He gets open so quickly, it's stupid. But yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just I'm with you guys. I'm looking at this now, and there's no way I would have pinned Denver to take Hamler.
Not after taking Jeudy.
No way. A lot of these picks are blindsiding me, but that's man, I watch a lot of Penn State. I try to, and it's kick and play.
Yeah. All right. So the next one was the biggest surprise of the draft, Jordan Love going to the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, this is not going to be anything for fantasy football next year. Jordan Love's not playing unless Rodgers gets hurt.
Let me just give 2 cents on this, because why does Green Bay hate Aaron Rodgers? I mean, it's like they're in high school. They got the hottest girl in the school, and they're making her dress up in sweatpants and overalls to go to the dance. Like, they're literally not showing her off at all. I mean, this team does not. They gave Jordy Nelson a while back, but they're just. You have Aaron Rodgers. You don't need much to do. Just give the guy a couple talented guys around him, and he'll do the rest. I mean, we saw what he was doing last year when guys were going down. I mean, he's unbelievable. And here they go, their first pick, and they're they're going to trade him. They're going to release Aaron Rodgers. What do they? I have no idea where their heads were at on this pick.
Love is a project. They know it.
2 years.
Yeah, Love is a project. They know it. He's not NFL ready right now. So,
does that mean in 2 years that they're going to be moving on from Aaron Rodgers? I mean,
yes.
Drew Brees is 41 and he wants to play for 2-3 more years. So,
Drew's done.
Aaron Rodgers needed weapons.
Brady's playing for a couple of years, huh?
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers needed weapons. I agree. I don't see. I don't think Jordan Love is going to be a great NFL quarterback. I think he'll be a good one. I don't think he'll be a great one. And to take him in the first round when there was plenty of other weapons you could have surrounded. To me, honestly, I would have loved to see Laviska Shenault go to the Green Bay Packers at that pick.
Not me.
You know what I mean? I would have. Yeah, that would have been a problem. But because you guys are Eagles fans. But honestly, I would have loved to see that. He's a playmaker. Aaron Rodgers knows how to get the balls in his ball into playmakers' hands. And to me, it just, you saw it last year. They have 2 playmakers on that team. I mean, they have just arguably one of the best wide receivers. Pair him with someone that can actually do something. Like, their offense literally was 2 players last year. In I don't know. I just don't get why you don't try to surround a quarterback with, Aaron Rodgers' arm talent with as many weapons as you can possibly get, and then you take a quarterback, which is like a slap in the face.
It was a wasted pick. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a.
I mean, as a fellow, a team that is not rooting for Green Bay in any way. I love it because, I think it sets them back a smidge, but, analyzing this from a football and a fantasy point, it really, it doesn't make, you got a couple good, they're in a conference where they can compete if they just add 1 or 2 really good pieces. And I don't know.
Think about it. Just think about it this way. Okay. So Devontae Adams, if you look at his numbers last year, right? He had 2 games where he had over 180 yards receiving. Do you think that's because he's
Philly.
the greatest wide receiver ever?
He had 180 in the first half against Philly.
Bro, he is their only receiving threat weapon, period. They're not.
You don't like Alan Lazard?
Oh, God.
I like him more than Allison and MV.
Oh my God.
Allison ain't there no more. It's just MVS.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, they signed Devin Funches. They signed, they got
Yeah.
Alan Lazard there, so maybe they think Devin Funches is going to be something. But have you watched Devin Funches
How do you
play
feel about
football?
Devin Funches, Steve?
Yeah, right. Have you watched Devin Funches play football? Because if you have, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This, I don't know. I just don't get it.
All
The
right,
dude is
so
36 years old. Get him some weapons, please.
I do like the pick. Not for this year or for anything, but knowing what Green Bay did before with Rodgers and Favre, I do like Jordan Love. I think that Jordan Love, has a ton of talent, and if he's, nurtured right, he could be a very good quarterback in the NFL. And if you can transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to a very good quarterback in Jordan Love, to me, I think that's setting your team up for success for decades and decades and decades. My problem with it is this was a team that was a game away from the Super Bowl. And to me, if you had some more playmakers, you would have been in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, you didn't give your quarterback a playmaker. So, yeah, for this year, for fantasy, for their team immediately, yeah, I don't like the pick. But I do think Jordan Love is going to develop into a good quarterback. And, I think down the road, this, Packers fans will be happy maybe 3-4 years down the line.
Not only that, like they lost Brian Bulaga. Like
Yeah.
you lost one of your, you lost your right tackle. You need playmakers at the wide receiver position, and you take a quarterback that is not. There's no way in hell that Jordan Love sees the field while Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the
Oh,
Green Bay
no,
Packers.
absolutely not. There's
So-
no chance.
Barring
There's
injury.
no chance. You know what I mean? So don't get me wrong. I think, you want to groom a guy, cool. But you are a team that was one game away from a Super Bowl. You were one game away from a Super Bowl, and you're drafting a quarterback? I mean, like, when I saw the pick, I couldn't believe it. And they traded up. They traded up to get him. Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
And the last pick, which is actually going to be a good one, I think, for all of us, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Love that pick.
This is just awesome for another team, rich getting richer. The Super Bowl champions get a stud running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield, that runs low with a good center of gravity, with good power for his size. This is just, he ran a 4.6 at the combine, and everybody's like losing their mind because, he ran a little slow at the combine. But to me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you watch his game tape from LSU, the dude can play, and put him in that offense and watch Andy Reid use him like a wizard. This is a perfect fit, and he's going to be good, from the start. I for fantasy purposes, I don't know how he matches up with Damian Williams if they just throw him out there and let him go. I know when Andy drafted Shady McCoy, he sat him for a year behind Westbrook, made him learn. So it could be something similar to that. But, I just love this pick. I think down the road, this is going to be, great for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, they picked up Damian Williams' option. He has 1 year left. This, the way Andy Reid has handled these type of situations in the past is he lets the starter be the starter. We saw what Deuce Staley did, the year before. Brian Westbrook became the guy, and Deuce Staley had a very productive year. We all remember that 200-yard game against the Cowboys. Always a fun memory of watching an Eagles game. But it is definitely a situation where I think Helaire is a great long-term option for a team that will know how to use him. Andy Reid knows how to use pass-catching running backs out of the backfield, and the kid is eerily similar to the way Brian Westbrook plays. Like if you just watch his his college game tape, he's definitely a guy that is shifty. Great bubble screen player. He just in the screen game he's awesome, and he's tough through the tackles. So I like him a lot. I think he is going to be a guy that is going to be a weapon for Kansas City for a long time. And his rookie season, I wouldn't recommend taking him. Some people are going to go crazy and think he's going to take, the job there, and I just don't see that in the first year. I see, some split carries, and unless Damian, Williams gets hurt, severely where he's out for many games, I don't see Hilaire being a guy that's going to get, 200 plus touches. He's probably going to be closer to 125, 150, something like that through the season. But still, in Dynasty, a player that I would love to get,
Oh,
first
absolutely.
round. I'd love that.
Yeah, he's definitely a great pick in Dynasty.
Yeah, moving forward, he could be the missing puzzle piece. I mean, not like they really have a missing puzzle piece, but their one lack last year was the run game. They were very, aside from Damian Williams having a great Super Bowl, they were, they were very inconsistent during the year with the run game, going back and forth between Williams and Shady, the fumbles, and Williams, with the stretch there of 2 and change on it or per carry. I mean, it was really, really bad, and the team just still stayed so dominant because of that air attack. So, if this kid is, as good as they're amping him up to be, we're hoping that Kansas City is going to be, then we got some problems here with Kansas City, because they're already pretty damn good, and this could just take them next level.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Let me just say, Seattle does make some of the weirdest draft picks. I mean, I love Jordan Brooks, honestly, but to take him in the first round was just what the hell. And now they take Darrell Taylor in the second. Like, he wasn't even the guy that I was seeing as being drafted very high. So
Pete Carroll does his own.
He
scouting.
does. He does. He does. And I will say it works. It works a lot of the time. Bruce Irvin. Nobody thought Bruce Irvin was going to be like. He drafted him like 14 overall, and Bruce Irvin turned out to be a beast.
You're not lying.
But how about just for football talk's sake? Defensive players. Anybody that I know stuck off.
Chase Young is immediately a Hall of Famer.
Oh, Chase Young's going to be a beast. But I think that.
Oh my God, Carson Wentz is going to have nightmares about Chase Young for years to come. This kid is.
Oh, it's Daniel Jones and Dak.
Dude, this kid is so good, dude. He's like the Jadeveon Clowney plus. The dude is just really, really good. I like Jadeveon Clowney. I thought he was great coming out, but Chase Young is a better version of Jadeveon Clowney. He is. Oh man, he's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Perhaps the best and most significant pick, or in my opinion, in this first round, could be Patrick Queen to Baltimore. Baltimore, who showed that they can offensively be a juggernaut. And now they add him into their defense, which was already good. But I mean, I think getting Patrick Queen 28th was absolutely gigantic for them. I mean, that was stellar.
Yeah, I totally agree with Patrick Queen pick. I like that one. I told you earlier, I love Javon Kinlaw going to the 49ers. I thought that, with them trading DeForest Buckner to the Colts, they just basically slid Javon Kinlaw right into his spot effortlessly, and basically are paying millions less to do it. So to me, that was I love that pick, and I was so shocked and loved that the Cardinals took Isaiah Simmons. I think Isaiah Simmons is just going to be, he's perfect for the NFL today. Perfect. If you watch what Malcolm Jenkins does for the Eagles, Isaiah Simmons could literally do that same exact thing. He will move up into the box. He could be kind of like one of those safeties that just comes down. He can play your tight end. He can play your running back. He can play a slot receiver, and he can stuff the run. This dude can do everything. He's perfect for today's NFL. He's literally maybe not the best. He's not the best player. He's my favorite player in this draft. I love Isaiah Simmons.
Cardinals defense was so bad last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they go so heavy in this draft on defense. They need it, especially after getting, D-Hop.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Javon. Honestly, I think like the guy that's going to bring the most impact to his team, like day one, to me is Jaguars pick CJ Henderson. you know, they after they lost JJ Boye in you know the offseason this year, you know, they lost Jalen Ramsey last year. They really needed someone who could do anything at the cornerback position, and CJ Henderson, I like him a lot. I think, you know, if you watch him play press coverage, he's a really good press cover corner, which is kind of the way they've been playing. You know, they've had Jalen Ramsey for a long time. So, you know, I definitely think CJ Henderson is going to make a difference on that team. And, you know, for immediate impact guys, I like what CJ Henderson, you know, brings to that Jaguars defense.
All right, so there you have it, guys. That is our draft day podcast, draft wrap up. You know, going forward, we'll try to get on here more. You know, talk about some. You know, go back on free agency, some of the new faces on different teams. New faces. You know,
new places,
Yeah.
different something like that. Whatever it is, but yeah, so that'll be good. We'll, you know, kind of debate where, you know, different guys wound up and how we felt like they, you know, will help their teams going forward. Until next time, guys, stay safe out there. You know, make sure you're practicing social distancing and, you know, following all guidelines, washing your hands and, you know, wearing masks out in public. You know, do what you got to do to keep everyone safe, not just yourself. And, you know, if you guys got anything to add on that.
Yeah, definitely, you know, do your part to, you know, stop the spread. So,
yeah,
that's
just
all I got to say.
think of others. I mean, might not be hitting home right now, but just, you know, I know the three of us are family guys and we're, you know, basically cooped up in quarantine. We're doing against our will, you know, or what we would like to be out there and be back to society, but it's for a period of time to, you know, make this better again.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So until next time, peace out.
See ya.
Peace.